Welcome to the Power of Music podcast. Brought to you by YAM International. Get ready to explore conversations with those making a difference through music.
Hello, and welcome to the Power of Music podcast, brought to you by JMI, Jeunesse Musicale International, the global network of NGOs that empowers young people through music across all boundaries. In this episode, we will be talking about accidentally mixing up instruments, the importance of a musical community and finding a musical family, the experience of producing together and playing into each other's strengths, how to turn adults temporarily into kids using magic, and of course, the power of music. My name is Ricardo, and today I'm joined by Nika Bauman, a flutist, improviser, music theater director, curator, and multidisciplinary artist, as well as award-winning composer, musician, performer, and project maker Rune Thorsteinsson. This duo is selected for the 2023 YAMsession Producers Forum in Brazil. During this forum, local musicians first perform live for the YAM session with their existing work. After, they are whisked away by the producers, and over the course of the next 2 days, they work together to make a new production. It is presented again on the final day. The whole process is followed by the audience, who is encouraged to give input and reflections on what transforms a good production into a great one. As always, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate the podcast. We hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you both so much for joining me today, and congratulations on the awesome performance. But before we talk about the YAM Producers Forum, can you please share a bit about your journey into music?
My journey into music has started in probably in a very typical way. Or maybe it wasn't typical at all. I don't know. My parents are not musicians. I don't have musicians in my family, but music was always a big part of our hanging out together, and especially the part of my family that comes from the south of Croatia. And there was always a lot of singing. There was always playing guitar, singing in harmonies. So I learned that when I was quite young. And my mom is a big fan of classical music. So she was always taking me and my younger sister into concerts, into opera, ballet. And I was, from the early age, quite enchanted with this. And then when she asked me if I want to go to music school, I said, of course, yes. And then she asked me, which instrument do I want to play? And the thing is that I had an encyclopedia at home that had all the instruments. And I was a geek, yeah, and I'm still a geek. So I would memorize everything and read a lot. However, I managed to switch the flute and the clarinet. So when she asked me which instrument do I want to play, I said flute, thinking it's the clarinet. And she was like, oh, that's interesting, flute. Okay, yeah, sure. And then I came to the music school my first day, and they opened the instrument. And I thought, oh no, this is not it. But I was too ashamed to say anything. And it was pretty nice and silvery. So I was like, yeah, amazing, cool. And I never said anything for like 20 years later.
Indeed, a very typical story. We hear this.
It's a very typical story. Very typical. Anyways, and then it became typical. So I started studying classical music. I went to grade school. I went to music high school. This is the system of music education in Croatia. But then there was one thing that really made me want to become a musician. And this was a combination of the music high school that I went to, which is called Elibašić in Zagreb. Of this and of music masterclasses, especially summer music masterclasses. A few of them was also GMI organized, And these were the moments where people of my age, so teenagers, came together, super passionate about music, and we made music together and we partied together and we talked about life and art and stupid things, of course, because we were teenagers, and love. Oh, we were also very in love with each other. But it was such a beautiful, it was such a beautiful life that I could see in front of my eyes. And actually, this was why I wanted to become a musician. This was why I decided to go into this. And then it became a bit more typical again. So I went to study classical music, la la la. But at some point, I realized that this what actually brought me or kept me in music, this community, which also actually I had in the beginning with my family and then with my friends, is what I love most about it. And if I may skip, or if I may, I can suppose that maybe there will be a question about the power of music in this interview. And if I'm allowed to maybe say something about this as well, this is something that I believe music does, and it brings people together, and it's an amazing, amazing tool to transmit joy. It transmits knowledge, it transmits emotions, and it can transmit joy, and it can connect people together. And this is also what I've experienced in this Producers Forum, and this is what also describes my favorite projects that I do, is that people become a big, happy, crazy family. And I think this is what music does, and I'm incredibly grateful to be in it.
Thank you. I'm just kind of done with the whole interview now. You make my life so easy.
Yeah.
But tell me, what instruments did you change by accident?
What instruments did I change by accident? Actually, I think I tried to build my own instruments before I really started to play instruments, tried to play drums and stuff. So maybe I didn't really switch it out. I kind of just created something very strange maybe to play on. So it was a coincidence what I played on, if that's a tricky way of answering your question.
Of course.
Okay.
And then, what has been
my journey into music? Yes. So I was very lucky to be in a school when I was a kid. I come from a city in Denmark called Kolding. It's not a big city, 60,000 people. In the school, we were like 120 students, 12 teachers, I guess. Half of them were musicians, teachers, and also playing music. So when we had breaks between the classes, we were like invited to play in the music room. In music classroom, we could just go in there and play around. But they were like, okay, but if you do this, can you please perform at our yearly festival in the school? And I was, yeah, well, we can do that. So we spent a lot of our breaks and after school just playing around in the music room, playing different and trying the instruments. And then some of the teachers came by sometimes and helped us a little bit how to play together, or how to keep on practicing something that almost sounded good, so we could perform in the yearly festival in the school. So that was like a great inspiration and a great environment to learn how to work with music. And I think this way of working with music has been my way of working with music ever since. I collect instruments and I like to work with music in different ways and play around with new sounds. And so I guess that come from this school system. Then I take the long journey as well, because Nika had a long journey, so I don't want an interview with 90% Nika and only 10% me. So I was in high school for 1 year, and it was actually not so funny because I got lost from my music that year. So after 1 year in high school, I dropped out. And I was like, oh shit, this is not working for me. This just sitting in the classroom and what's going on here? So luckily, I was growing up, being young in a time where we in Denmark had something called free education, meaning that you could create your own education if you didn't want to go to high school or technical school or whatever. So I dropped out of high school, and then I went to this place. Hey, what is this free education? And it started out with you had to talk to some guy, and he asked me, yeah, but what if you ask yourself what you really, really want in life, and what you really want to become, and if you have to imagine where you are in 10 years. So I spent some time walking around in the forest around Kolding, a week or so, writing down ideas. And then I came back to him, and I thought, yeah, I would like, I'm very passionate about music. I have already been performing. I think this is the way to go. So maybe I practice for some years, and then I go to the conservatory, and then I will create projects and try to live from that. 10 years after, that was exactly what happened. So never underestimate to ask young people what they really want instead of just put them in education systems. You try to give them space to. That was my experience with music. And
so thank Denmark for the free education.
Yeah, the government closed it down. The liberal government some years later, but
okay, this is a very sad,
that's
anticlimactic ending to the story.
But for me, it was perfect. I know more people with this story.
Fantastic. Let's talk a bit about YAM Producer Forum, but maybe for the audience at home, we're like, what is the YAM Producer Forum? Can you say a few things about what it actually is?
Yes, Nika. YAM Producers Forum is me and Nika getting a challenge. We meet an orchestra, and this orchestra has maybe never been giving concert for children before. And then we have one day to work with them and try to help them how to create a concert for children, or how to make their production, their music more eye level with children. And in our case, it was 5 years old children. So we had to take this Brazilian traditional music and try to build a bridge to an audience 5 years old and find a way to do that. And then, of course, we have a lot of producers from around the world watching us, wow, how we do, and giving ideas for us, and telling us all kind of stupid things that we didn't want to do, actually. But no, actually, there came some good ideas. But no, it's a fun forum because this is where you share ideas,
of course,
and it's totally good that we have different approaches to work with children and what we think is important with children. And so if 10 people say something and 2 of them say something that I never thought about, then I bring these 2 ideas with me, and maybe that changes the way I work in 2-3 years from now. So I think it's very nice that people working with this share ideas.
I guess it's
a good way to do it, because it is so much just showing the process. And we make mistakes, and that's important to be able to share also things that is not really working, right?
And I guess it's normal that if people share 10 ideas, there's 4 you already thought about, 4 you don't want to think about because they're not so useful, and 2 that are actually new and useful.
Exactly.
So you told me you had a different approach than some of the producers in the audience. So what is the approach you came with, or how did you approach this project? Also, you met here for the first time, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. And I can see you became great friends.
Yeah. Yeah, about the ideas and approaches, for me it's always interesting to hear. It was really interesting to hear their ideas after the first performance, because I don't think it's really, what's really interesting for me are not maybe the practical ideas per se, but actually what stands behind them. So behind them, it's usually connection with the audience, or clarity of performance, clarity of ideas that want to be transmitted, engaging each other on the stage, but also engaging the audience. So for me, that's actually interesting. And I think almost everyone has the same, they have the same values. So, and then of course there were some really, really cool practical ideas. There were also, of course, after the final performance, there were also comments that some were super useful and totally on the mark. Some were maybe not useful, but not because they wouldn't be useful in general in the world, but just for this situation, maybe because literally me and Rune met once on Zoom, and then we actually met each other. So this is the first time that we ever worked together. We had maybe half an hour, 1 hour to make a plan. We were sitting on a bus and plotting and strategizing before even meeting the musicians. And once we met them, we had basically 24 hours less because you have to let people sleep and eat, unfortunately. Yeah. They cannot work all the time. So yeah, but I have to say I'm incredibly grateful for Rune because somehow we clicked, I think, super well. And I was also trying, I hope I was, to be respectful and to give him space. And I also felt super safe with him, that my ideas were heard, and that that my energy, which sometimes really is over the top, that it's okay. And he also gave me space for that. And I tried also really to not go over to the top and give him space. And somehow we really, our ideas started really to come together.
Maybe a good example on that is that Nika brings all her energy and she makes everyone dance, and then I get tired of this and I make everyone stop. and then it becomes into this stop dance where she makes them dance and I make them stop. And so
my favorite moment was when, after I think, I don't know how many hours of working with a group, and most of them don't speak English, so we are speaking. Just for context, we have a Brazilian group speaking Portuguese. I am a Croatian speaking English. Rune is a Dane speaking English. So we have many languages in our head in that moment. So after hours and hours working, Rune just turns to me and he starts speaking pure Danish straight at me. And I was just looking at him and like, okay, right.
Yeah, but that's when you become a team, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you also understood him, even though you did the spell that everyone understands Danish.
We have this special spell that we can use for concerts. If no kids show up, then we can always turn everyone into kids.
I thought that was actually very, very clever. I will tell the audience what you guys did.
It was Rune's idea. Really
seems
smart.
Like it. So basically, what he did, I will summarize quickly because I had to experience it. And there was a problem. There was no 5-year-old kids present. So the two of you did some magic spells and got the audience engaged. So all the, mostly older audience of the YAM sessions.
It's called adults.
Oh, yeah, adults. Adults plus, I would say. Turned them into 5-year-old penguins, elephants, that really made you 5-year-olds' imagination alive. And then in the end, 5-year-olds who actually spoke Portuguese. And I felt like a 5-year-old speaking Portuguese.
Oh, I'm happy.
But it's also a great way to get the audience excited and in that energy. It's very clever.
Cool. I think this will end out being an add to the project.
Mm-hmm.
That she in public promised that she will arrange children concerts with this orchestra.
Yeah.
So now the orchestra is having an afterlife after this production.
And I also got a promise. It was not so public, but in front of a few people, that they will fly us back so we make the whole show. So I just said it live in public now on air. So please fly us back here to Brazil so we can finish the show.
I heard it.
Great. I'm already looking forward. That's great.
I always like to ask people that produce for young audiences, what is the biggest difference for producing for young audiences and not so young audiences?
The answer to that question is that very often there's not such a big difference.
And that's what most people say.
But of course there are. So for me, it's most about the energy, the approach to, because normally when I play with my groups, it's almost the same music when I play for adults or kids. But actually my favorite audience is family concerts, because then you have both kind of audience. You can make ironic jokes for the parents, and you can make kids laugh if you put your drumstick in your nose or something. And most of all, you can give the parents the experience of their kids enjoying music, so they will probably see, oh, my kid really likes music, maybe we should do this a little more, and encourage them to do whatever, play music, hear music. So not a big difference, but about the energy. It's about the energy, how to communicate with the audience when you are in the room.
What I normally really like about the YAM sessions is that if there's children in the room, instead of watching the concert, watching the kids watch the concert. But I watched the two kids here in front of me watching the concert, and they were so happy today. I was like sneakily looking at you. I see we're nearing already the end, and you had a very long day. Just for the people that are listening that want to maybe connect with either of you or one of you, or see your work or what you do, where can they find you, both of you?
Websites is probably the best thing. Mine is just my name and my last name.com, so nikabauman.com. I think yours is the same.
Yes, so I just put things out there. So actually, maybe Google name is best.
Yeah.
Then you end up on YouTube or different places, homepages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Have a nice journey. There's a lot of good material out there to check out.
And I think
Nika
that
Bauman, Rune Thorsteinsson.
fantastic. And I think that the Producer Forum sessions will also come on the JMI YouTube. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Matt already
Check it
posted
out,
them
check it out.
in the video group. So you can see the first and the second.
Okay.
Fantastic.
That could be nice.
Yeah.
I will check that out.
You should.
Yeah.
As always, the last question. What is the power of music?
I did that one.
Sorry, you asked me to prepare and I didn't. The power of music. There are so many powers in music. So I guess the power of music is when you find a way to connect the powers and make it a big bang, supernova, powerful experience. And I think that happens when you use your music together with other people. Audiences or just in a group, or sometimes also just when you play your music for someone else, something when you record it. But the strong thing is when you share it. So the power in music, I think, is in the sharing of music.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening. If you want more information about JM, or you would like to get involved, visit www.jmi.net. At JMI, we are on a mission to make the world more musical. That's why we created Mubazar, a digital platform that helps us manage all our musical activities across 80 countries worldwide, connecting musicians with opportunities to grow both personally and professionally. If you are a music professional looking for a better way to manage and promote your music activities, check out Mubazar. Created for music organizers, by music organizers, Mubazar allows you to run music competitions, workshops, camps, auditions, masterclasses, awards, events, and much more. Mubazar offers custom application forms, payments for your activities, jury tools, translations, analytics, and more. Mubazar is fast becoming the best place for musicians to find and apply for music opportunities online, and you can sign up today for a free organizer account by going to www.mubazar.com, registering, and then requesting to upgrade to an organizer on the right-hand menu. For more info, don't hesitate to get in touch via support@mubazar.com. It would mean a lot to us if you could give us 1 minute of your time and rate and review the podcast. In case you have any suggestions or would like to be one of our next guests, feel free to reach out to us through the JMI socials.